You're listening to Murder Not Murdering with Erin,
And Autumn,
a true crime podcast about murder and murdering.
but we are not murderers.
All right, everybody, we are back at Murder Not Murdering with Erin and Autumn.
Hey, what the fuck?
I thought we'd try something new.
No. I don't like I'll just squeak my chair the whole time then.
You will, but the problem is that I will edit that out and then everybody won't know that you're squeaking your chair, but just insert squeaky sounds like that's what it sounds like.
So rude.
I don't care. Anyways, so we are back at another episode. I hope you guys liked the last one. We have two brand new ones for you tonight. Today, it's tonight for us because we're recording at night, but you don't know that. So, good morning. And
Good morning.
I hope you're having a lovely commute to work. uh, so, I was talking to Autumn last night because I finally watched the Elizabeth Smart documentary that she had suggested a couple weeks ago, and it was so good.
I told you.
I know, I just don't listen when you talk.
Oh my god. I mean, that was really apparent when you were like, "Welcome back. It's Erin and Autumn."
Yep. Yep. No, I was super impressed by it. I felt like it was really well done in the way that they did things in the chronological order and how, her just talking so earnestly and how she felt while she was going through this. Because I think sometimes like we know her now, especially as an adult woman, but her talking about what it was like in those moments and reminder that she was a teenage girl during all of this was really moving, I think.
Mhm. I agree.
Just
We share a
heartbreaking.
birthday.
Do you?
She was born on November 3rd.
All right, now you know. It's just it's really it's a heartbreaking tale, but it is amazing that they were able to find her. I feel like so often our stories don't end in such a positive manner, but
Mhm.
what she's done with her life since then and that she's got her own show where she's helping other people that were victims of kidnapping, I think is really important. Important
I
work.
agree totally.
Yeah. And also, I mean, to be interviewed by someone who is probably the only one of the very few people on the planet that completely understand.
Right?
Yeah, there's something really special about that and that she's doing that out there.
People can trust her.
Yeah. Crazy that they almost caught them early on. And
Uh-huh.
weird that they kept going to parties and I don't know. The whole thing is fucking crazy.
Yeah,
If you
that man.
Yeah, that man. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix, right? Yeah, Netflix. So do check that out. That is Elizabeth Smart. I think it's just called Elizabeth Smart Kidnapping or something like that. You'll find it.
Something like that.
I
But I
believe in
also
our
can't believe
listeners.
I also can't believe that Wanda Barzee is already out.
Like in
And she was
2008.
Yes, and she was, like, recently found wandering a playground.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm dead serious.
That is
And
just
part of the
disgusting. condition
condition of her being released was that she could never be in the presence of children.
Yeah, obviously.
But here
Jesus.
we are, so clearly she hasn't changed.
No. I mean, I feel like when you get to somebody that far, like, as a follower and to allow those things to happen, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. She needs some extreme therapy to try to get through that. I think the guy, though, is just a psychopath. I don't believe that I think he's using the God thing as an excuse.
I think
I think there's
that
some psychosis too, but
yes.
I do think that he's also, like, thought he was smarter than everybody else. I think he really thought
That's
that he was gonna
the
get away with it.
way. Philip Garrido thought that too, the one that took JC Lee
Yeah.
Duggar. Yeah. He,
So often with these men,
what a fucking coincidence.
the cult
Or not
leader
really
God
at all.
complex.
Mhm.
Yep. See it so often. Well, tonight I'm going to continue my Black History Month episode. So I'm going to be doing a really famous one, but it also is, I think, another one of those ones that people don't talk about enough. So I'm excited to do that. I have no idea what horrors Autumn is going to be bringing to us. It's the year of the horrors, horse, horrors. Any of those words will work. Uh-huh. I did call Autumn a whore. I just wanna make sure that that was very clear.
Oh, shit. She's spicy tonight.
I'm full of it. Yeah. Well, okay. I just left this is not at all spicy, but I just left the most incredible Cirque du Soleil show, and rushed home so
Makes
that we
her
would be able
want to,
to
like, fucking, like, roast me, I guess.
I guess it's got me hype. It was really beautiful. The show was called Echo, and it's probably the most visually stimulating and beautiful show I've seen yet, and I've seen almost all of the Cirque du Soleil shows. I just love it. I think it's a beautiful piece of art. I had a great time. If you're in the Seattle area, they're gonna be here until, I don't know, sometime in March. I'm here with all the facts.
Wow. Super informative. Thank you so
Mhm.
much.
You're welcome. Yes. No, it was a great show. So I'm like kind of hyped up. I'm all excitable and spicy, I guess. So there you are.
Wait, cannot wait.
I am also wearing animal print, so I guess that's maybe pushing me to be spicy.
I feel like this is a bunch of bullshit.
No, I'm genuinely wearing
I
a
know, I believe you, but you're using that as an excuse to be
yes.
mean.
I'm not being mean. I only called you a whore
I mean,
lovingly
oh, okay, well, you
as your
said
friend.
that.
Yeah. It's like the difference between being like, "Hey, bitch," or being like, "Hey, bitch." You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like that. If you see me, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
On
Mhm.
that note,
On that note, Autumn, are you gonna jump into your case then?
yeah,
Mostly to get me to shut up?
it's called Erin's a Whore.
Yep. And now Autumn is going to murder me. So, cool beans.
You kinda deserve it. It's called The Revenge of the Bestie.
I was gonna say Revenge of the Nerd. Oh, good times. We should probably get into cases because I could go and do this all night long.
But the sad thing is she's the only one that thinks she's funny. Oh,
Lies. That is hardcore lies.
prove it.
I could have so many people come right now and tell you how funny I
I
am. I'm
know.
very funny.
The funniest.
I mean,
Are they on your
self-proclaimed, but
payroll?
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No. Rude.
If they're related to you or if they're on your payroll, doesn't count.
I will say this, my staff does not let me get away with shit. They sure as heck wouldn't be laughing just because they get a paycheck out of me. I'll tell you that right now. I got some spicy staff members, that's what I've got, and I encourage them to just be themselves, so that's on me as well. Not one of those people that rules with an iron fist. I think it's important to support people and let them know that they're appreciated and that we love them. So, why don't you say something mean now, Autumn?
I will. Erin
Okay.
is the worst, period.
Mhm. Yeah. End of sentence.
End of
Uh,
sentence.
speaking of the worst, Autumn, do you have a case for us?
I do, and for once, I mean, okay, it is bad, but it's
Are you gonna say it's good?
no,
Is this Happy Facts with Autumn?
I forgot about Happy
I
Facts.
know. Lay it on us. Give us a happy fact, Autumn.
Happy fact is no children die in this episode.
Oh, that is a happy fact. I didn't know
Mhm.
if you were gonna tell us that your parents had got married on a cult day or if,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this one takes place on Super Bowl Sunday.
Ooh, happy fact. Yep.
And the
And
Seahawks won the Super Bowl this year, so
did they? I wasn't
go Hawks.
aware with the millions of people downtown jumping, hanging from lampposts, losing their minds. It was crazy.
It was epic.
Yeah. But, I will say, I think Seattle in itself doesn't have a lot of, like we kind of we root for our team even in the bad years, you know what I mean?
And
Like, I
we're not
think
just a bunch of bandwagon fans.
no, people that have been cheering since it was real bad to when
Like,
it's been good.
yes, very much so.
All the way across the board,
I
any of our
remember
teams.
being a child watching the Seahawks in the Kingdom and never
Yeah,
even realizing that Super Bowls would ever be a possibility for us.
right? I mean, I feel like I came up in the heyday of the Mariners, though. Like, the '90s Mariners was fucking off the hook. So I loved that. I went to a lot of Kingdom days back in the day with Lou
I like how
Piniella and
you're, like,
Griffey.
talking you were like we aren't the same age. Like,
I
"Oh, I grew
mean,
up in I came up in the
well,
heyday."
you weren't a baseball fan ever, so there is
No,
that.
but my whole family was
Yes.
and is still.
Yeah.
But
I'm definitely
baseball
more of a
moves too slow
baseball.
for me.
I'm more of a baseball fan than I am a football fan, but I cheered on our team. I watched the whole game. I was very excited for the Seahawks to win.
I
And
think you were more excited for Bad Bunny, let's be real.
I mean, I was though. And then also Autumn just went to a hockey game
Hockey
too.
game.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you saw the Thunderbirds though, yeah?
Yeah, the Thunderbirds in Kent at the Showware Arena?
Sure.
Or I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah,
And
that's what
then
I'll call it.
that's what it was. And then, our Kraken team is doing really well. That's our hockey team. And then you know
Mhm.
who's doing real well and also has a Olympian on the team right now from this winter is the Seattle Torrent, and that's
Mhm.
amazing. We broke a record for the most people at a women's sports game. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Women's in sports is very important.
It is, and that's why I also like soccer. The Seattle Rain's pretty fucking awesome too.
You're
Anyways,
leaving out the Storm.
oh god, yeah, probably one of our more decorated of the
Mhm.
women's sports.
Yes.
Wow, what a shitty woman I am right now.
I mean,
Yes, and the Seattle Storm. I'm not a big basketball person though, so
I
that
love it.
wasn't just not inside my brain. Autumn loves basketball. Didn't you play basketball or
I
some?
sure did.
I
I
thought
sure did.
so. I thought so until everybody got taller than you, right?
Yes. So everyone got taller than me, and then it just didn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, you only hear our voices, but we're shorties.
Yes, very short. Very,
Yeah,
very short.
we're very hand that to me from the top shelf because I can't reach it myself kind of
I
folk.
bring Dustin with me to the grocery store for that very reason.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
Let's get into my
let's get
story.
into it. Lay it on me, shorty.
Oh my god.
I'm a problem. I don't know.
She's the whole problem.
Mhm. Yep. You're
Okay,
welcome.
girl. Strap
You're
in
welcome.
and
Strapped.
try not to get too confused.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Here we go. There is something uniquely intimate about poison. It waits inside a glass, inside a capsule, inside something handed to you by someone you trust. And when it begins working, it works at a level you cannot see, deep inside your cells, where oxygen becomes useless and life quietly unravels. This is the story of Autumn Klein.
What?
Yeah, that's why I said don't get confused.
Oh my goodness.
And the science that convinced a jury her death was deliberate.
Quick side note. I did for a while try to find a murderer named Autumn, I
Oh,
thought it'd be
shit.
funny, but unfortunately, all the Autumns I found have been murdered. So, just thought you should know that fact.
Oh, there's plenty of errands that have
Oh,
murdered.
loads of them. Yeah, we do the most.
Autumn was 41 years old in February 2012. Res-
OMG.
a respected neurologist at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. She was methodical, compassionate, the kind of provider who double checked medication interactions and stayed late to explain test results. She was married to Robert Ferrante, a research scientist affiliated with the University of Pittsburgh. Medicine and molecular science under one roof. They had a young daughter, and according to testimony introduced at trial, they were trying to conceive again. That detail would become central because prosecutors would later argue that the desire for another baby created a routine of supplementation, and that routine created opportunity. At trial, jurors heard that Ferrante encouraged Autumn to take creatine. Creatine is widely used for muscle performance. It is not a fertility treatment,
I was
but
gonna ask.
yes, but the prosecution argued that Ferrante framed it as beneficial while they were trying to have another child, something to improve her body. There was
Oh,
testimony that he prepared drinks for her, that she trusted his scientific expertise, because why wouldn't she? He's a medical researcher.
and her
That
partner.
Yes, and that she relied on him in matters involving chemistry and physiology.
That makes sense.
He was also a lot older than her, but
Hmm.
that is neither here nor there at the moment. February 5th, 2012, Super Bowl Sunday in Pittsburgh. Autumn had just come home from work. Her husband, Robert, was home. At some point that evening, she consumed a drink he prepared. On the kitchen counter sat a large Ziploc style bag labeled creatine. Ferrante would later tell first responders she had been taking it because they were trying for another baby, that it would help her body. Within minutes, Autumn became violently ill. She vomited, she became dizzy, her mental status deteriorated rapidly. When paramedics arrived, they found her collapsing on the kitchen floor. Her heart rate was dangerously low, her blood pressure barely measurable. She was struggling to breathe. Ferrante reportedly described a sudden headache, a spontaneous collapse. No one was thinking poison. Not yet. At the hospital, doctors began ruling things out. CT scan, normal. No hemorrhage. No stroke. EKG, no heart attack. Cardiac enzymes, not consistent with acute coronary catastrophe. Yet something was very, very wrong. Her blood work showed profound metabolic acidosis. Her lactic levels were shockingly high. Now, here is where medicine starts whispering clues. When cells cannot use oxygen, they switch to anaerobic metabolism. That produces lactic acid. Lactic climbs. But Autumn's oxygen levels in her blood were paradoxically high, meaning oxygen was present. Her body just couldn't use it. At one point, when physicians inserted a central line into her jugular vein, the blood that flowed back was bright red, unusually bright for venous blood. Venous blood is normally darker because tissues extract oxygen. But in cyanide poisoning, oxygen remains unused. The blood stays red. It's one of those clinical details that doesn't scream, but once you know what it means, it's unmistakable. At the time, though, doctors were still searching. Was this a rare metabolic disorder? a mitochondrial crisis. Cyanide's lethality is biochemical. It binds to the ferric iron in cytochrome. So let me just tell everybody that I wrote this, but I had to use all these medical terms and I am struggling.
You
If
won't know
only
from the edit,
Timmy,
though.
yeah, if only Timmy was here to help
Oh,
me.
to walk us through it, man. He helped us
Yes,
so much on that episode.
these
I was
are
like
really
"You say it first, then
scientific
I'll say
words.
it." Yep.
Yes, these are very scientific words. So, the cytochrome C oxidase within mitochondria that halts the electron transport chain. Oxidative phosphorylation stops. ATP production collapses. And they got these out of medical books. So please forgive me. Cells cannot generate energy. Even though oxygen is circulating in the bloodstream, tissues cannot use it. This leads to hexatosis hypoxia. The body shifts to an anaerobic metabolism. Lactic acid accumulates rapidly. Autumn's lactic acid levels were extraordinarily high, far beyond what physicians typically see outside of catastrophic poisoning or cardiac arrest. Her blood cyanide concentration was measured at levels consistent with acute intentional ingestion. Experts testified that the amount found in her system could not be explained by environmental exposure. This was a large single dose. The onset of symptoms, minutes after ingestion, matched textbook oral cyanide poisoning. The science was precise, and it was devastating. Days before her death, Ferrante ordered potassium cyanide through a chemical supplier. He used his university credentials. The shipment was delivered to his lab at the University of Pittsburgh. The defense argued cyanide has legitimate laboratory uses, but prosecutors presented evidence that there was no active protocol requiring potassium cyanide at that time. There was no immediate documented experiment needing it, and the purchase occurred shortly before Autumn's collapse.
And yes, the irony of the fact that you
Right.
ordered that and then your
And
wife
then it
dies of the
dies
same
of it.
poison? Come on now.
Investigators recovered digital evidence from his devices. Search history included inquiries about cyanide toxicity and lethal dosages. Forensic analysis of his lab space revealed cyanide crystals. The timeline became the backbone of the prosecution's argument: acquire, prepare, administer, collapse. Toxicologists explained to jurors how cyanide disrupts cellular respiration. They walked through the lab values, they described lactic spikes, they explained why this one was not an allergic reaction, not food poisoning, and not sudden infection. One expert testified, in essence, that her laboratory results were consistent with acute cyanide ingestion and inconsistent with accidental exposure. The prosecution emphasized opportunity. He prepared the drink. He had recently obtained cyanide. He possessed advanced knowledge of toxicology. The defense countered there was no eyewitness, no video, no confession. They argued that purchasing cyanide for research is not a crime, that the state's case was circumstantial, that the investigation narrowed too quickly. They challenged whether the state had eliminated every alternative explanation, but the jury deliberated and returned with a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Ferrante was sentenced to life without parole. He has continued to maintain his innocence and has pursued appeals challenging aspects of the trial, evidentiary rulings, and expert testimony. But the conviction has stood. And here's where the case settles into something quieter. If the prosecution's theory is correct, Autumn ingested poison while believing she was strengthening her body for another child. That detail reframes the entire narrative. It isn't simply that a husband prepared a lethal drink, it's that the drink existed within hope, within routine, within trust. She wasn't suspicious, she wasn't planning, and poison, unlike violence, doesn't announce itself. It dissolves, it blends, and you drink it. Poison cases linger differently because they force us to confront how fragile trust really is. Autumn understood medicine. She understood physiology. She would have recognized metabolic acidosis in a patient. She would have explained hypoxia to families. But knowledge cannot override biochemistry. When cyanide binds inside a cell, it doesn't negotiate. If someone you love hands you the glass, you don't analyze it, you drink it. There's no loud final moment in this story, no cinematic confrontation, just a Sunday evening, a supplement, and a body shutting down cell by cell. Autumn Klein should have grown older. She should have raised another child if that's what she wanted. She should have continued saving patients with her brilliant mind. Instead, her story lives in a lab report, in appeals briefs, and courtroom transcripts dense with biochemical terminology, like I just tried reading to everybody.
You did
And
good,
in
Autumn.
thanks. And in the quiet horror of how something meant to help, a supplemental, a drink, a gesture of care, can become something else entirely. I'm going to read my sources, but then I'm going to say something else about her.
Okay.
My sources were uh, Paula Reed, the book Death by Cyanide, The Murder of Autumn Klein, which is the book I read and where I got the idea to do that. I was like, her name is frickin' what? And it's also a article on Death by Cyanide by Undark. I got the trial coverage from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the court reporting from CBS Pittsburgh, and I also reviewed the case from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Robert Ferrante from the county court records of Albany. I briefly saw this a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I have to do this story, even though there's not a lot like known about it.
Sure.
Um,
Like
but
motive?
yes, but it was like the name just kind of drew me in, and she was honestly so brilliant. The research that she was doing in Pittsburgh was for epilepsy and specifically women who were pregnant who had epilepsy. And she was just so kind. She would, after the babies were born, she would like attend meeting them and like sometimes go to their christenings. And she really strongly believed that even though you have epilepsy, you should be able to have a baby, which was something that wasn't really studied because it was so dangerous. And so she was making a lot of headway for that. So when she died, all of her colleagues were like, this is awful because not only did like a person die, but all of her research and what she could have done treating the next patient for the next 25 to 30 years, what that could have brought the scientific community.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awful to think about. And he was a lot older than her, and he's maintained his innocence. So, like, all of this is based on scientific evidence
Sure.
because he has never said he did it. But,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
don't know what the motives are.
100%. But he was found guilty, so I'm gonna call him guilty. And he clearly didn't want another child. He was telling people that he didn't wanna have another baby. What is wrong with people? Like,
Well,
if you don't wanna
also,
have another baby,
then
say
don't.
something and
Yeah.
don't have another baby. Why do you have to kill the
Well,
mother of your child?
there has to be something more deep seated there, right? There has to be something or some resentment build up or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Something happened
Something had to have happened
because
that
that's
he was
yeah,
I mean, that's extreme.
it's
And
extreme.
he speaking of people who think they're too smart to get caught, I'm
Oh,
sure he thought he was.
I'm sure. I'm sure of it because he thought he could hide behind science. I still don't understand why so many people use their personal computers to search.
I don't
Like,
know.
Literally, I think we did one, like, months ago where the guy was like, "How to kill wife." Like, I mean, it's literally like that. It's like, "What are you
Like,
doing, dude?"
I honestly, I don't know because that is
Well, and to
the
claim that it wasn't him also isn't really plausible because the drink was there and cyanide
and he made
acts
it for him.
fast. But cyanide acts fast. So it's not like she would have to have consumed it from, like, I don't know, outside. I mean, where's she going to get that? He made the drink, she
He
drank
made
the
the drink.
drink, that
Mhm.
happened. Like it's not really plausible to me that that's not how it happened because of how quick cyanide acts.
Well, and he had thought it through because he kept telling her creatine's gonna be great to try to conceive.
Well, and he looked it up.
Mhm.
Like, he was looking up lethal dosage. Is that what you were looking up for for your research, for your job? No,
Right.
you weren't.
And then your wife dies of cyanide poisoning?
No.
The irony also is that she was a neurologist, and what she ultimately died of was she was brain dead. They
Yeah,
couldn't She was gone for too long. Then her organs started shutting down, but
sure.
she ended up being able to donate some of her organs, which
That's
I tried to
incredible.
yeah, I tried to research that because I'm thinking if you have cyanide poisoning, are your organs gonna be okay? But I mean, obviously they were because she was able to donate them.
Sure.
And then her parents are raising her daughter.
I was gonna ask you who was.
Mhm,
Well,
her parents are raising her daughter. And her poor mom, like, I couldn't even her mom was like she was a brilliant neurosurgeon and she couldn't fix her own brain.
oh,
Like, you know what I mean?
that's
Like, she was
heartbreaking.
thinking
Yeah.
if she was a doctor, she could have maybe saved herself, and I'm like,
No.
"Oh,
Well,
my
also no,
heart."
but that's so sad.
Right, and I mean, of course, the mother's gonna think
Sure.
whatever they're gonna
You're
think
never
to
gonna give up
Mhm.
hope. You know what I
Never.
mean? Yeah.
Mm-mm, it's just so sad.
That is really sad and
But I didn't it's
unfortunate.
not like a really well-known story, there's not like a Wikipedia page on it or anything, but
No, I only
it
knew of it because I had looked to try to find a murder Autumn
Yeah, and then you're like,
because
"Oh."
I thought it'd be funny to do a case, but then all the Autumns got murdered, so she was one of the names that came up, and there's several others.
I did not know. I mean, I'm not laughing at people named Autumn getting murdered, but, like,
No,
the fact that you were looking that up is what I find to be
I just
funny.
thought it'd be a fun angle.
I was Dustin and I were eating dinner, and there was, like, a short on it or something, and I looked at him, I said, "Did they say her name was Autumn?"
Yeah, you're like,
And
"Have
there
to
we
do
were.
this." That's Autumn's dinner TV.
Yeah, poor Dustin, he's not even into that kinda stuff, and he has to watch it all the time.
I mean, it is what it is, right?
I
Your
don't really
choice.
feel that
He
bad for
chose
him.
you to be his partner,
Right?
so you
You
deal with it.
chose.
Your choices, friend.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to switch gears here real quick because I'm going to be doing a case, like I said, that I'm doing for Black History Month. It's also a very famous case, but also I think again, kind of like Reese Taylor, not one you hear about very often, but I think is important. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to jump right in because I think that's the best way. This is the assassination of Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers once said, "You can kill a man, but you can't kill an idea." He didn't say it like a warning. He said it like someone who had already counted the cost. Mississippi, early 1960s. The air is thick with heat. He received threats daily. His children practiced what to do if a shooting or attack started. Crosses were burned. His address was printed in segregationist leaflets, but still he spoke out. This is the story of a man who tested America's promise and of a woman who refused to let it fail. Medgar Wiley Evers was born July 2nd, 1925, in Decatur, Mississippi. The Evers family owned a small farm, and his father also worked at a sawmill. Medgar and his siblings would walk 12 miles a day to attend a racially segregated school. He experienced intense racism when he grew up. At just 12 years old, a family friend was lynched, and the man's bloody clothing hung on a fence for more than a year as a sign of intimidation. While in his teens, he would watch from a safe distance as white gangs patrolled the streets of Decatur on Saturday nights looking for a black target to beat up or run down with their cars. This pushed Medgar to enlist in the U.S. Army at the age of 17. He served in the 657th Port Company, a segregated unit during World War II, and he participated in the Normandy invasion of 1944. Pretty incredible.
Mhm.
It wasn't lost on him that he wore the uniform of a country that denied him his basic rights. In France, Medgar's unit was part of the Red Ball Express, which delivered supplies to Allied troops fighting on the front lines. During his time in the Army, he was angered by the segregation and mistreatment endured by African American troops. Witnessing Black soldiers of the Free French forces being treated as equals of white troops, he once told his brother Charles, "When we get out of the Army, we're going to straighten this thing out." In 1946, Medgar was honorably discharged from the Army at the rank of technician 5th grade, having earned a Good Conduct Medal, a European African Middle Eastern Campaign Medal, and a World War II Victory Medal. On his 21st birthday, Medgar Evers and 6 other World War II veterans, including his brother Charles, tried to vote in Decatur, only to be turned away by an armed white mob barring them from voting. He married Merle Beasley in 1951. They had 3 children. They built a life and a movement together. He would later say, "I love my children and I love my wife with all my heart. And I would die and die gladly if that would make a better life for them." After returning to Decatur, Medgar enrolled at the historically Black Alcorn Agricultural and Mechanical College in 1948, majoring in business administration. During that time, he also competed on the debate, football, and track team, sang in the choir, and was elected the junior class president. He
Wow.
Yeah, he earned his Bachelor's of Art in 1952. He was motivated. Following the 1954 ruling of the United States Supreme Court, Brown versus the Board of Education, that segregated schools were unconstitutional, he challenged the segregation of the state-supported public University of Mississippi. He tried to enroll at the University of Mississippi School of Law, only to be turned away. NAACP officials considered taking up his case, but were so impressed by him that they decided instead to hire him as the first field secretary for the Mississippi chapter of the NAACP. He worked for voting rights, economic opportunity, access to public facilities, and other changes in the segregated society. He also investigated lynchings and murders, including the 1955 killing of Emmett Till. He organized boycotts, including the gas station boycotts, where he encouraged Black people to not spend their money at gas stations that were segregated or places that would not allow them to use their restrooms. He recruited many members. He pushed for integration at the University of Mississippi and supported James Meredith's enrollment in 1962, a crisis that required federal troops. On May 20th, 1963, he talked on television about the mistreatment of Black Mississippians, saying, "The years of change are upon us. In the racial picture, things will never be as they once were. History has reached a turning point, here and over the world." The supremacist group, the White Citizens Council, circulated his home address. They printed it in magazines and handed it out.
That is awful.
Threats came every single day. And at night, Molotov cocktails were thrown at the Evers home weeks before his death. The children would practice what to do if a shooting, bombing, or any other kind of attack happened on their lives. Merle later said, "We live with death as a constant companion." On June 11th, 1963, President John F. Kennedy delivered a nationally televised report to the American people on civil rights, in which he proposed legislation that would later become the Civil Rights Act of 1964, expressing civil rights as a moral issue. That very night, Medgar went to an NAACP meeting, but before he left, he told his wife, Merle, I am so tired. I don't think I can go on, but I can't stop. Because of the dangers that Medgar was facing, he was regularly followed home by at least 2 FBI cars and a police car. But in the early morning, just after midnight, on Wednesday, June 12th, Medgar arrived home without an escort. None of his usual protection was present, for reasons unspecified by the FBI or local police. Now, there has been speculation that many members of the police force at the time were members of the KKK, and there is a theory that perhaps they weren't there to protect him for a reason. He pulled into the driveway. He stepped out of his car carrying NAACP t-shirts that read Jim Crow must go. Then, as he shut his door, an Eddystone Enfield 1917 rifle fired from across the street. The bullet tore through his back and exited through his chest. He staggered 30 feet before collapsing by the front door. He bloodstained the driveway. His wife, Merle, was the first to find him, and his children were in the home right behind her. He was rushed to the local hospital in Jackson, where he was initially refused entry because of his race, turning away a gunshot victim. The Evers family explained who he was, and only then he was admitted. But sadly, Medgar Evers died in the hospital 50 minutes later, 3 weeks before his 38th birthday. He was the first Black man to be admitted to an all-white hospital in Mississippi. Medgar was mourned nationally. He was buried on June 19th in Arlington National Cemetery, where he received full military honors before a crowd of more than 3,000 people. After Medgar was assassinated, an estimated 5,000 people marched from the Masonic Temple on Lynch Street to the Collins Funeral Home on North Farish Street in Jackson. Allen Johnson, Martin Luther King Jr., and other civil rights leaders led the procession. The Mississippi police came to the nonviolent protest armed in riot gear and with rifles. While tensions were initially high in the standoff between police and marchers, both in Jackson and many other similar marches happening around the state, leaders of the movement maintained nonviolence among their followers. Now, back at the scene of the shooting, the rifle used to shoot him was found nearby with fingerprints intact. It was traced to Byron Dela Beckwith. Beckwith was a fertilizer salesman and outspoken segregationist affiliated with the White Citizens Council and later the Ku Klux Klan. He was arrested within days. At rallies, he portrayed himself as a patriot defending Southern tradition. At one meeting, witnesses later recalled him saying, "I had no choice." The state charged him with murder. Now, it seems like an open and shut case, right? They have his
Yeah.
gun, they have his fingerprint, he's openly talking about it at rallies. So now I'm going to take us to the first trial, February 1964. You heard me right, the first. There's an all-white, all-male jury, and for your information, at the time, most Black Americans were still disenfranchised by the Mississippi's Constitution and voter registration practices. This means that they were also excluded from juries, which were drawn from the pool of registered voters. And like I said before, they barred Black people from voting. So already swayed in the other
Yeah.
direction. The defense argued that the rifle had been planted, which is ridiculous. They floated conspiracy theories that the communists killed Medgar to stir unrest. Also ridiculous. And the courtroom itself was segregated. Black spectators were limited. The jury deliberated for only 11 hours, and unfortunately, it was a hung jury and declared a mistrial. A headline read, "Evers' trial ends without verdict." So now a second trial begins. April 1964. Nearly identical jury composition, nearly identical defense strategy, and this time, deliberations stretched even longer. But again, it was a hung jury. Beckwith walked free. He told supporters Mississippi stood tall today. Privately, witnesses would later say that he bragged about the killing. But the state made no effort to retry him. Case was closed for 30 years. Beckwith ran for lieutenant governor on a segregationist platform. He gave speeches telling crowds that he believed in an absolute white supremacy under white Christian rule. He attended rallies. His violent ways continued afterward. In 1973, New Orleans police caught him with a bomb that he had planned to use to blow up a Jewish leader's home, and he went to prison for that one. He blamed his conviction on, and this is a quote, the little Jewish prosecutor, and he uses the N-word, women, on the jury. So, real great guy.
Yeah.
In the years that followed, Beckwith made no secret of his racism, not like he did back then either. But in a 1990 interview, he called the White Citizens Council, created to preserve Jim Crow's ways, the first ray of light Dixie has seen since we fought through Reconstruction and captured the right to vote and the right of white people to run the South. He's just disgusting.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Meanwhile, while he's living free, Merle is raising 3 children alone. She refused to leave Mississippi immediately because she said, quote, "I will not let them run us out." But the threats were constant, and eventually she relocated to California for safety. Yet she never stopped pushing. She preserved documents, she cultivated journalists, she pressured the Department of Justice, and she met with prosecutors. She kept Medgar's name alive. Merle Evers became a noted activist in her own right, eventually serving as the national chairperson for the NAACP. Charles Evers, Medgar's brother, continued activism in Mississippi. He became the mayor of Fayette in 1969, which made him one of the first Black mayors in a racially mixed Southern town. The fight did not disappear, and Merle never gave up in the pursuit of justice for Medgar's assassination. In 1989, a new district attorney reviewed the case. Previously suppressed evidence emerged. Witnesses came forward saying that Beckwith had openly boasted, "If I had to do it again, I'd do it." Jurors from the 1964 trial admitted to racial pressure influenced during deliberations. The climate of Mississippi had shifted. The Cold War conspiracy now seemed absurd. So now begins the third and final trial in 1994, 30,
Wow.
30
30 years?
years after the
Wow.
murder. For the first time, the jury included Black citizens. The prosecution introduced evidence that had never been shown in 1964, including statements that Beckwith had made at Ku Klux Klan meetings. The body of Medgar Evers was exhumed for an autopsy. His body had been embalmed and was in such good condition that his son was allowed to view his father's remains for the first time in 30 years. Merle sat in court every day. Beckwith, who was now elderly and in a wheelchair, appeared frail, but the evidence was not. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty, life in prison. Merle would later say, "I feel that justice has finally been done." In 1997, Byron De La Beckwith appealed his conviction in the Evers case, but the Mississippi Supreme Court upheld it, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined to even hear the case. He died at the age of 80 in prison on January 21st, 2001. Medgar Evers, like I said before, was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. His death accelerated national momentum towards the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was enacted coincidentally on Medgar's birthday. His name lives on through the Medgar Evers College. In 1995, Myrlie Evers Williams became the chair of the NAACP. In 2013, she became the first woman ever to deliver the invocation at President Barack Obama's second inauguration. In 2017, the Medgar and Myrlie Evers House was named a National Historic Landmark, and 2 years later, the site was designated as a national monument. In 2004, Medgar Evers was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Joe Biden. The following year, as part of a series of Trump administration anti-DEI deletions, the U.S. Department of Defense deleted profiles of Medgar and other prominent Black veterans, as well as female veterans, from the Arlington National Cemetery website, which is really fucking terrible.
That is terrible.
Also, he went and fought at Normandy in 1944. I mean, this is ridiculous. Also, this month, the Trump administration, this very month, have revised the Medgar and Myrlie Evers landmark brochures per President Donald Trump's March of 2025 executive order restoring truth and sanity to the American history by removing a photo of Medgar outside the house after he was shot and by removing the word racist, referring to his assassin, Byron de la Beckwith, who, just so you know, referred to Medgar as a mongrel and regularly talked about burning Black churches, destroying Jews, and used the N-word in all of his speeches and writings. They won't even call him a racist. Alan
Let's
Spears, yeah,
Trump is the one, like, that I have nothing
he,
to say.
yes, no. Alan Spears, Senior Director for Cultural Resources at the National Parks Conservation Association, said, "It's turning the assassination of Medgar Evers into something that is bloodless and has no impact. We can talk about him being a wonderful veteran, but we can't talk about what it cost him. He gave the last measure of devotion, and now we want to ignore that." Jackson Mayor John Horn called Beckwith a self-described racist. This is a quote, "If the National Parks Service is taking exception to that, just listen to the man's own words. In my personal opinion, it is important to call things out as you see them and not to soften the truths or images because that was the reality and it's the only way we can learn from this." Medgar Evers once said, "Freedom has never been free," because he knew the cost. This episode isn't about murder, it's about endurance. It's about the slow grind of justice. And it's about a wife who waited 3 decades and never stopped the fight. It's about his brother who kept marching. It's about a system that failed and then finally was forced to answer. And from Medgar's own words, you can kill a man, but you cannot kill an idea. My sources were researched using the archival newspapers, court records, oral histories, and the following published works. For Us, The Living by Myrlie Evers Williams with William Peters. The trial transcripts and appellate records from the 1964 mistrials and the 1994 conviction of Byron de la Beckwith from Hinds County Circuit Court, Mississippi. Archival coverage from the Clarion Ledger, the Jackson Daily News, the New York Times, oral history interviews from the Civil Rights History Project from the Library of Congress, materials from the NAACP archives, FBI files related to the assassination of Medgar Evers released under the Freedom of Information Act, and articles by Mississippi Today and the Medgar Evers College. 30 years, killed by a supremacist, and they won't even use the word racist to describe him.
Well, they, as in being that administration,
Yes,
people,
that administration.
others will call him
Our
that.
current
Yes.
our current administration, I should say that.
Yes. Mhm.
I mean, this man was a decorated war veteran. He fought to help people desegregating schools. He did so many things in such a short time of his life. And then they tried to, for lack of a better word, whitewash right over everything that happened. And the family has been very outspoken. His niece and his daughter have been very outspoken in this, as well as his wife, Merle, in that they did not feel comfortable that the parks department was changing the brochures because it takes away from what actually happened there and why it was so important and why it's important to know that it took 30 years for them to catch this racist man
Mhm.
who had fingerprints on the gun. I still don't know how that even did not go through. The fact that the first time that he went that there was 2 trials in 1964. Both of them were hung juries. They found the gun which belonged to this man with his fingerprints on it. I mean, I can't believe it. And that they tried to do some sort of Cold War thing is so weird. I just can't believe that that's what happened. I mean, I can believe it, but I just think his case is really important. I think it's important to talk about. I also think him as a civil rights leader is important to speak about. So I felt really motivated to tell that story. And the work that Merle has done, it's incredible. If you look at her career on its own is incredible, and that she just kept the fight going and that she never gave up or just said, "You know what? Fuck it. They're not ever going to see it. They're never going to do anything about it." Instead, she just kept fighting. And I think there's something that is so incredible about that and the resilience of that woman who also had to raise his children without him there.
Mhm.
And she did remarry later on in life, but it's still it just I mean,
It's not the same.
it's not the same, and those kids had to grow up without their father, and people had to grow up without this leader who knows what he could have become, with all the work that he had been doing. It's in the fact that the night before or the night that it happened, he said, "I'm tired. I don't wanna fight like this anymore, but I can't stop." I mean, truly. So that was the story of Medgar Evers, and I hope that it resonates with all of you, and I hope that, um, you have a good week, and that we all continue to keep in mind that kindness is really important and that we need to take care of each other. Because I think
How
right now.
ironic
Oh,
that your kindness is at the end when you were a mean girl in the beginning.
I softened. Murder makes me kinder.
Okay.
Um, no, I do. I think it is important to remember that kindness is important and that we make sure to stop whitewashing everything or taking down monuments or taking down people's names who earned the right to have their names on things. It's just really unfortunate that that's where we're at right now, that we're literally taking names of people off of, military bases and everything who gave up so much for our country. It's just disgusting, and that's how I feel about that. Um, I think it's important to highlight people that made a difference and that did so much in their lives, especially when their lives are cut short. And on that note, like I said, I am going forward tonight with kindness, and I think I just want to send you into your week that way. So I hope that you have a good week, and we so appreciate all of our listeners. We really, really do. And thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends, tell everybody that you can to listen to our podcast because we need it. Again, it's just the two of us in our home studios recording, and it's a labor of love. So we very much appreciate all the people that take their time to spend with us. Um, and if you do want to know more or want to see more about the people that were involved in our cases, you can follow us on Instagram at Murder Not Murdering and at mnm.pod on TikTok. So those are a great way to put a face to the name of the people that we're speaking of, and you'll get to see a little bit about all of the people involved as well, including Autumn's trash man who poisoned his wife. Also, I can't hear you say poison without thinking of the song. I'm like, "Poison, poison, poison." Like, I was like, "Stop, brain. You need to be serious right now. Knock it off." Anyways, thanks again for listening. We are gonna be back next week. New episodes always come out on Mondays. And again, we appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Bye.